On day 17 of the Diddy sex trafficking trial, another one of Sean's accusers took the stand, testifying under the pseudonym Jane. She told the jury that Sean Combs would make her take part in nights of debauchery with other men. Here are some highlights.
You told the government that this balcony incident happened early in the morning, true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that the photo was taken later that day at your apartment, true?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you were alone when you took the photo, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you provided another photo, you know, the one with you and the neck brace, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The bandages. And you explained that that photo was airdropped or texted to you, true?
I explained that because I couldn't remember, so...
But that's what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you told the government that during an interview, right?
Sorry. Say that again.
You told the government that during an interview that it was airdropped or texted to you, true?
Yes.
And you testified to that yesterday, right?
Yes.
And you testified yesterday that both of those injuries happened on the same day, true?
Sorry. Say that again.
You testified yesterday on direct. You were shown both of your photos, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Madam Prosecutor asked you about the second photo. That was the one with your back and your neck. You remember that, right?
Yes.
And she asked you if both of those injuries happened on the same day, and you testified it did. True?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please publish Government Exhibit 3S102A? This is the picture of your leg, right?
Yes.
And can you please make the date big for us? Enlarge it. Thank you. All right. And you agree with me that this is Monday, September 26th, 2016. True?
Yes.
At 9:45 a.m. True?
Yes.
And this is the metadata from your phone, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you remove that part and keep the exhibit up? And at the bottom of this exhibit, it shows that this is your phone, Apple phone 7, right?
Yes.
And it shows your location, true?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the metadata from your phone, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can take that down. Ma'am, are you familiar with the Bad Boy reunion tour, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember Mr. Combs' travel schedule during the month of September?
No.
I'd like to show you some documents to see if it would refresh your memory. Can you please show to the parties only?
Objection, Your Honor. There's no failure of memory here.
Your Honor, she said she didn't remember.
No.
Ms. Westmoreland, you may proceed. You're going to put a document in front of the witness.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You're going to put a document to refresh the witness's recollection.
Just to refresh the witness, yes.
All right.
I'm going to do a few documents. Ms. Bongalan, you know that Mr. Combs performed at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, September 25th, true. 2016? True?
I don't know personally, but I see.
And you're aware that Mr. Combs and Cassie were in New Jersey on September 25th, 2016? True?
Objection.
Overruled.
I'm not aware.
All right. You're aware that the Bad Boy reunion tour was going on in September of 2016? True?
I know it was going on, but I'm not for sure on dates.
Ma'am, you're aware that Mr. Combs was on stage on the night of the 25th at the Bad Boys reunion tour performing alongside with Lil' Kim?
Objection.
Is there a question?
True?
Can you re-say that?
Ma'am, you're aware that Mr. Combs on September 25th was performing on stage Bad Boy reunion tour with artist Lil' Kim?
I can't recall.
In New Jersey? You can't recall?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, are you aware that on September 26th, Mr. Combs and Cassie was in New York at the Boys and Girls Harbor Salute to Achievement benefit? Are you aware of that?
Objection.
All right. Are you aware that on September 26th, Mr. Combs and Ms. Cassie was at New York at the Boys and Girls Harbor Salute to Achievement benefit award?
Not aware.
Are you aware that on September 26th, Mr. Combs, with the Bad Boy reunion tour, was also doing a signing at Macy's?
Not aware.
Mr. Combs did not cause you the injuries that you showed us that we saw on your phone with the metadata from September 26, 2026, did he?
I can't agree with you.
Ma'am, you came in here and you lied to the ladies and gentlemen of this jury. Isn't that true?
I can't agree with you.
I was very clear this morning that there were not to be any facial expressions, other attempts to have any interaction with the jury whatsoever, any influence on the jury whatsoever. And I could not have been clearer in terms of what I said. You heard me. right?
I did.
Well, there was a line of questioning where your client was nodding vigorously and looking at the jury. And there was a subsequent moment, we had a sidebar, and I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of questioning. That is absolutely unacceptable. Is it going to happen again, Mr. Agnifilo?
It's not going to happen again, Judge.
It cannot happen again. If it happens again, if it happens even once, I will hear an application from the government to give a curative instruction to the jury, which you do not want. Or I will consider taking further measures which could result in the exclusion of your client from the courtroom. Do you understand that?
I understand, Judge.
All right. So I want you to have a conversation with your client to make sure that he understands, and everyone should understand that I really meant it, that there should be no efforts whatsoever to have any interaction with this jury.
Understood, Judge.
And then, what do you remember from your last day in Miami?
I remember he invited us all over for a movie night, and we were in the theater and all watching a movie.
Where was the theater?
Inside of his residence.
What do you remember happening while you were watching the movie with Sean and your girlfriends?
I remember he texted me and he was like, "Are you okay? I'd like to take you out." And I was just saying to him that it just felt a little complicated in the moment, but like, we'll be in touch.
So you were texting during the movie?
Yes.
And was the girlfriend of yours who was seeing Sean in a relationship with him there as well?
Yes.
After that movie night, where did you go?
I went back home.
And at the time, where were you living, generally?
On the East Coast.
And after that trip, how, if at all, did you remain in contact with Sean?
Just through text message, phone calls.
And what do you remember about those communications in the weeks after that first Miami trip in 2020?
I remember he was flirtatious. He was inviting me to Miami. Like that, generally.
Ms. Becker, could we please pull up what is in evidence as Government Exhibit a 906? And could you please pull up pages 1 and 2 side by side? Jane, do you recognize this?
Yes. Yes.
And what is this?
It's a text message between myself and Sean.
Could you please tell us the very first text that you sent to Sean?
Bert.
And how did he respond?
Ernie.
And then, can we go to the next page and look at what Sean sent you after that? What did he send you after that?
He says, "Call me Ernie. How are you?"
What are the dates of these messages?
November 30th, 2020.
And were the first two November 29th, 2020?
Yes.
Over the course of your texting relationship and communications after that Miami trip, who pursued whom?
Sean.
Sean pursued who?
Me.
And what was Sean asking you to do over those messages and phone calls?
He was just asking if he could see me, if I would be interested to come to Miami.
And at first, how did you respond?
At first, I was still a little hesitant.
Why were you hesitant at first?
Because I was still being considerate of my girlfriend, who still had feelings for him, and yeah.
What, if anything, changed?
My girlfriend ended up getting engaged, and she moved overseas and became a fiancé, and so I felt that she was okay and that I could potentially entertain the Sean thing.
And about how long after that Miami trip in November of 2020 did your girlfriend get engaged to someone else?
Fairly quickly.
So was she seeing her soon-to-be fiancé at the same time she was seeing Sean?
Yes.
What do you remember about the first time you saw Sean on that January 2021 trip?
I remember when I first saw Sean, he walks in the door of the hotel room, and he was just, like, larger than life. He had a very big personality, super charming, very, very passionate, even just in how he speaks, and just overall really charming. And he was just immediately immersed in conversation with me.
Where did you spend that first date with Sean?
We spent it at the Intercontinental Hotel in a room. We had dinner there on the balcony.
And how long did your first date with Sean end up lasting?
I would say 5 days.
I want to focus on the beginning of that first date. At the beginning of that first date, what, if any, past relationships did you discuss with Sean?
I was very open with him that I had previously dated somebody who he was really close to, and that I understood that my child's father and him had dislikes with one another, and he was very, very vocal that he didn't care. Not about my past girlfriend, not about my child's father. And then the only thing maybe he had concerns about was the person that he was really close to.
I want to make sure we understand that. So first, you said you'd been in a relationship with someone who was really close to Sean. Is that right?
Yes,
How long before this first date in 2021 had that relationship with someone Sean was close to ended?
I would say 2015.
Are you estimating?
Yes,
And then you mentioned that your child's father was someone who did not get along with Sean. Is that right?
yes.
And how many children do you have?
1.
And did you and Sean talk about those two relationships on your first date?
Yes.
And generally, what did Sean say about them?
Generally, he just said that he didn't mind, and he was okay. It didn't matter.
What, if any, past relationships with Sean did you talk about during that first date?
Just the relationship with my girlfriend at the time.
And what did you discuss about that?
That he just said that that was really more like a friendship more than anything. That it wasn't really as romantic as maybe she had assumed it was.
And so, after you cleared the air about your past relationships, what happened on the rest of that first night with Sean?
We made lots of love. I remember it was just amazing. And I remember it was like morning time, and then we just decided to go for a walk on the beach.
So, where did you see the sun rise that morning?
On the balcony,
With whom?
Sean.
And then, after that, what did you two do for the rest of your trip in Miami?
After that, we went to a proper date night. We went to a restaurant, we got dressed up, and we had more of a mellow, like, one-on-one sitting and properly dating. Date night,
And then, did you spend the next couple days together too?
yes.
Over that first date, what kinds of things did you and Sean talk about?
We just were getting to know one another. Just getting to know one another.
When you left Miami after that trip in January of 2021, how did you feel about Sean?
I was pretty head over heels for Sean.
Over those approximately 3 months, how often did you see Sean in person?
I would say every other week or so.
And how would you see him in person, every other week or?
So he would fly me to him.
You say he would fly you to him. Would he pay for you to fly?
Yes.
Commercially?
Yes,
And to what city did you fly to see him?
I would fly to Miami.
During that same time, in between seeing him in person, how did you communicate with Sean?
Through text, phone call, FaceTime.
Over those 3 months, what, if anything, do you remember Sean giving you?
As far as,
What, if any, money do you remember him giving you?
I just remember he was sweet. He would give me money here and there.
In cash or wires?
A mix of both.
And what would he say when he gave you money?
Just because.
Over those approximately 3 months between February and May of 2021, how often did you use drugs?
Every time I saw him.
Every time you saw who?
Sean?
And who gave you the drugs you used every time you saw Sean?
Sean.
What drugs did Sean give you during that period?
Ecstasy, Molly. Sometimes there was cocaine. Sometimes there was something called K, which was ketamine.
Now, focusing again on those 3 months between February and May of 2021, in what context did Sean give you drugs?
Whenever we would start having sex.
During that same period, what did you learn about how Sean preferred to have sex?
I learned so many things. I learned how he liked to have pornography playing. I learned how he preferred me to dress. And I just learned the things that he liked sexually.
How did Sean tell you he preferred you to dress?
He preferred me to dress in provocative lingerie and really high, like stripper shoes.
And about how long did he want you to be in these outfits while you were using drugs?
The whole time.
And how long would that last usually?
At first, it would be like 12 to 24 hours.
And what, if any, substances did Sean want you to use on your own body during sex?
Baby oil.
And what did Sean tell you to do with it?
To just have it all over my body and his.
In what types of rooms between February and May of 2021 would you have this kind of sex with Sean?
At his residence, in his bedroom.
And how was his bedroom lit when you would have these interactions?
We would have red lights on.
Now, during those first 3 months, how did you feel about these long-lasting sexual sessions with Sean?
I love them. I really love my partner, and I was just making love with my partner like the whole time, and lots of affection and kisses and lovemaking, and it was really wonderful. I had a really nice.
How intense did your relationship feel during this early phase?
It felt really intense.
Could you explain that?
I felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me too. And the way he would compliment me and be so into me and just really like enjoying one another. Like it made me feel really good inside.
So, over those 3 months between February and May of 2021, how did you feel about Sean?
I loved him very much.
I want to talk now about May of 2021. What do you remember happening in your relationship with Sean in May of 2021?
I remember that just when we would watch pornography, we just started to have a lot more of fantasy conversation.
Do you need to take a break, Jane?
No.
Who initiated the fantasy conversation you're describing?
Sean.
And can you explain to us how he initiated that conversation?
We would just search specific things on these websites. And just in the middle of like being high, like he just really wanted me to fantasize or kind of really talk about other men and this type of role play about other men.
You mentioned you would search on these websites. Are you talking about pornography websites?
Yes.
So would you be watching pornography?
Yes.
And you said that he would want you to talk about other men. What did he tell you he wanted you to say about other men?
It was more like a question. Like, do you like what you see there? Do you like that? Do you want that? Can you imagine that? Pretend that that's here and I'm that person.
Now, in May of 2025, is there a particular night when you remember him introducing this fantasy talk?
Yes.
At the point where he brought it up.
Objection to the time period.
May of 2021. I'm so sorry. In May of 2021, was there a time when Sean initiated this fantasy talk?
Yes.
And at that point when he referenced it, where were you?
We were in his bedroom watching pornography.
In what city?
Miami.
And how long had you been awake at that point?
Around, I would say, 12 or 15 hours.
Into the night?
From the evening until the morning.
So had you been awake the whole prior day, too?
Yes.
So had you been awake for a total of about 24 hours?
Yes.
And what, if any, drugs had you been using for the last 12 to 15 hours?
A mix of ecstasy and Molly.
And what had you and Sean been doing for the last 12 and 15 hours?
Having sex.
In the way you described?
Yes.
So then what did Sean start to say to you after you had been doing that for 12 to 15 hours?
He started saying, I can make this fantasy a reality. If you'd like to have that happen, I can make that happen.
And how did you react?
I said, okay.
Why did you say, okay?
Because seemed like he wanted that, and it was turning him on, and I was really into my partner. And I said, okay.
Now, when you said, okay, did you think that was going to happen that night?
No.
When you said, okay, did you want to be having sex with someone other than Sean?
No.
So, what did you think you were doing when you said okay to him?
Playing into the fantasy.
So, did you just think this was a fantasy?
Yes.
How did Sean respond when you said, okay?
I remember I went to the restroom, and when I came back out, Sean was in a robe and staring at his phone like really seriously.
How, if at all, had his demeanor changed?
He just looked really serious in his phone.
And what did Sean say to you when you came out of the bathroom?
He said we can make that happen tonight.
How did you react when Sean told you we can make that happen tonight?
I was like, tonight? Like, okay. I was taken back, a bit surprised, but like, okay.
Why did you say okay?
Because my partner was excited and it was already happening and this was something we were going to do.
Were you still high at this point?
Yes.
What do you remember happening next?
I remember being in a hotel room.
Do you remember how quickly you got to that hotel room after you saw Sean on his phone?
Just within a couple hours.
Do you remember what hotel you went to?
A hotel in Miami.
And when you got to the hotel room a couple hours after Sean had been on his phone, what did you see in the hotel room?
I saw the assistant setting up this room. There was beverages, the lights were already red. There was just kind of like a bustle of getting this room ready.
Do you remember what assistants were setting up the room?
I don't.
After the assistants set up the room, who was left in the room?
It was me and Sean in the bedroom talking.
And what did Sean say to you in the bedroom?
He just told me that there's somebody coming and just to relax and that this would be something fun and he knows the guy and he's a really nice guy. And I was just super nervous and just listening to him.
Now, at the time you met Don in this hotel room, were the drugs you had taken that night still affecting you?
Yes.
So how did you feel?
I was high.
Can you tell us what happened after you first walked into the room, into the living room where Don and Sean were?
I remember I was just sitting on the couch with my robe on, and Sean was just telling me to relax and that it was okay, and same with Don.
How was your body positioned as Sean was telling you to relax?
My legs were crossed, my arms were crossed. I had the robe on, I was nervous.
What happened next?
Sean was like, just stand up, like. And so I stood up and I started to just kind of dance, just to kind of get my nerves away.
Did you take off the robe?
Yes.
Who suggested you take off your robe?
I think it was just a mix of me and Sean.
While you started dancing, what did you see Don do?
Getting turned on.
What was Don wearing at this point?
Shorts?
What kind of shorts?
I think his underwear.
What do you remember happening next?
I remember Don came closer to me and started touching me, touching my leg, and just trying to make me feel comfortable. And I started touching him and just trying to, I don't know.
What was Sean doing while you and Don started touching each other?
He was watching and touching himself.
What was Sean wearing at this point?
Nothing.
And you say he was touching himself? Was he masturbating?
Yes.
What do you remember happening next?
I remember things got a little more hot and heavy with me and Don, and we started doing like foreplay on one another.
Now, as that went on, who, if anyone, suggested that you perform oral sex on Don?
Sean.
And what did you do in response?
I did that.
About how long did that last?
Quite a while.
And what was Sean doing in the meantime?
Watching, talking.
What was he saying, if you can remember?
I remember he was in a positive mood, just like being encouraging and sweet.
Who, if anyone, suggested moving to the bedroom?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled?
You can answer.
I remember it was me who started going to the bedroom.
Why did you do that?
I was kind of ready to kind of speed things up a bit.
When you say speed things up a bit, what do you mean?
Just to get it going.
What happened next?
It was time for sex.
What did you ask for before having sex with Don?
A condom.
How did Sean react when you asked that Don wear a condom?
He said, like, he didn't want that. He just said, why? Just these guys are safe. They get tested all the time, and they're some of the cleanest people. and he can show you his papers, and you don't have to do that.
What did you understand Sean was referring to when he said these guys get tested all the time?
At the time, I don't know, but I assumed.
I don't want you to assume. At the time, did you know what he was talking about?
No,
How did you react after Sean told you didn't need a condom?
I was nervous at first, but then at the very last moment, Sean gives Dawn a condom.
And so, then did you have sex with Don?
Yes,
And did he wear a condom?
yes,
For about how long did that last?
a little while.
And how did that end?
Dawn taking the condom off and finishing on me.
What was Sean doing while you were having sex with Don?
Watching.
Was he saying anything? Or was he quiet? Or can you remember?
I can't remember.
Now, after you had sex with Don, did Don leave?
Yes,
And then what did you and Sean end up doing?
we were in a really good mood, and we just started making love, and he was really, really happy.
How did that night ultimately end with Sean after Don left?
I can't totally remember, but we were together and we were happy.
After that night in May of 2021, about what percentage of the time that you saw Sean did you end up having sex with another man in front of him?
90%.
Did you want that?
No,
Did you want to have sex with other men?
no,
Who did you want to have sex with?
just Sean.
Throughout your relationship with Sean, what did you want more than anything?
Just to be with Sean.
What kinds of things did you want to do with Sean during your relationship with him?
I just wanted as much as I could. Just have like an old-fashioned type of relationship where it was just me and him. Like how I met him, like how it was.
Like how it was at the beginning of 2021?
Yes,
Did you ever get back the feeling you had had in the beginning of 2021?
no.
Now, at first, well, after that first night in May of 2021, about how long after that did Sean suggest you do that again?
I would say probably pretty quickly after.
Was it the next time you saw him?
Yes,
And how did you react when Sean suggested doing it again?
I was agreeable
And why were you agreeable?
because my partner wanted that, and I just wanted to make him really happy, and I knew it turned him on, and I just wanted to satisfy my partner.
So, at first, over the next few months of 2021, about how often did Sean suggest one of these nights where you have sex with another man?
All the time.
And at first, in the rest of 2021, did you go along with it?
Yes,
Why?
because I just really loved him at this point, and I just wanted to make him happy, and I feared losing him. I just wanted to be everything that he wanted, and I wanted our time to be special every single time. And if that made him happy, I was willing to make him happy.
After a few months of having sex with other men in front of Sean, did you start to tell Sean that you did not want to have sex with other men?
Yes,
And over the rest of the nearly 3 years of your relationship, did you tell Sean you did not want to have sex with other men?
yes,
Did you tell him that once or more than once?
more than once.
Did you tell him that in writing or verbally?
Both.
Did you move into that home when you were still in a relationship with Sean?
Yes,
And who paid for your rent when you moved to that home?
Sean.
And after Sean started paying for your rent in that home, what, if any, threats did he make to you about that rent when you tried to tell him you did not want to have sex with other men?
Objection, Your Honor.
Is it the same objection?
The word threats.
Can you rephrase?
What did Sean say to you about your rent when you tried to tell him that you did not want to have sex with other men?
He would just start saying things like, if you want to break up, that's fine. Do you need, 3 more months in the house? Because I'm not about to be paying for a woman's rent that I'm not even seeing.
Now, in those conversations, were you trying to break up with Sean?
No,
What were you trying to stop doing?
I was trying to stop doing these nights.
When you say these nights, do you mean the nights you had sex with other men?
Yes.
How did Sean saying those things about ending his payment of your rent make you feel in those moments?
I felt frustrated. I felt just obligated.
What did you feel obligated to do?
Perform?
Perform. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just perform these nights with him.
So could you tell us in that typical routine or pattern, how did it usually begin?
I would greet the person and I would say hello and just be really nice and sweet and kind of make small talk and
Make small talk with who?
whoever the entertainer was.
And when you say the entertainer, what are you referring to?
An escort.
And after you had small talk and greeted the entertainer, in a typical night following the pattern or routine that we've discussed, what would happen next?
They would be undressed, in shorts, and I would come out in a robe. Music would be playing, and I would start to already be high or have drugs in my system. And I would start dancing and slow dancing, just to kind of get my nerves out and kind of start the night. For energy of that and a robe, and things would escalate to foreplay between me and the man. Actually,
Throughout that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's a few steps before that is typically the oral would start happening. When I would start dancing and I would put oil on the man and things like that.
You said the oil. What oil are you referring to?
Baby oil.
And why were you using baby oil?
Because that's what Sean really liked.
How did you learn that?
From the very beginning of our sex life. That's what he liked to introduce before sex.
So, focusing again on the pattern or routine of these nights, as you go through that first phase, pouring oil on the man or yourself, dancing, what would Sean typically be doing?
Masturbating.
And then what is the next part of the typical routine or pattern of these nights in your experience?
In my experience, it would be just a really long and prolonged foreplay moment between me and this guy. And I would just sit there, and he wanted me to touch myself while I was touching the other man.
You said he wanted you to touch yourself. Who is he?
Sean.
How did you know? How would you know when he wanted you to touch yourself?
He would tell me.
You said that this period would be long. About how long in a typical hotel night would that period last?
Those moments would last a very long time. I can't really think of hours or, I don't know, just really long.
Why would they last so long?
Because he really enjoyed watching me pour oil all over myself, all over the man, have the man stand and just watch these really erotic moments happening between me and the man.
You said who is he?
Sean.
And how would you know that that's what he wanted?
Because he would tell me.
After that first phase, again in a typical pattern of one of these hotel nights, what would typically happen next?
Typically, after that, it would be time for sex.
And what kind of sex would typically happen first?
Sex between me and the other man.
And forgive me for asking this, but oral sex or intercourse first?
Oral sex.
And you said it would be time for that. How would you know it would be time for oral sex?
It varied between Sean telling me or me just starting it.
Why would you just start it?
Because I knew that it would arouse the man more and kind of speed things up.
Why did you want to speed things up?
Because I just wanted to speed things up.
About how long would the oral sex last typically in a usual hotel night?
Long time, like many hours.
Why would it last so long?
Because that's what Sean preferred to see.
How did you know that?
Because that's what he would tell me. That's what he would like to watch. He says it from the very beginning, that's what he wants to see more of, is me playing with myself and play with the other man.
Over these hours, who would perform oral sex on whom?
I would perform oral sex on the man.
And in the typical pattern of one of these hotel nights, what would typically happen after those hours of oral sex?
Then we would move into the bedroom to have sex.
Who would usually suggest moving into the bedroom to have sex?
Me?
Why you?
Because I just really wanted to be done so I could just be with my partner.
And why would moving to the bedroom help you be done?
Because then that would mean that they would finish, and then I could just be with my partner.
When you say finish, do you mean ejaculate?
Yes.
And you would move into the bedroom on a typical hotel night, following through the pattern and routine we're talking about. What would typically happen next?
After the man would finish, then Sean would come in. The man would be excused.
While you were having sex with the man, what would Sean typically do?
Masturbate, watch.
And what, if anything, would he say? Would he say something or no?
Are you talking about sexually?
I'm asking typically. Walking through the routine of a typical hotel night, would Sean usually talk or say something while you were having sex with the other man? Or no?
Yes, he would say, "Do you want to feel some of that?" and just let him finish and do something.
When Sean would say, let him finish, what did you understand Sean was saying to you?
That he wanted this man to ejaculate on me.
About how long would the sexual intercourse typically last during one of these nights?
It could last quite a while.
And how would it end each time?
With the man finishing just right outside of me?
You mean ejaculating?
Yes.
And when you say right outside of you, do you mean right outside of your genitals?
Yes.
After the man finished, you said he would be excused. Who would excuse him?
Sean.
And after the man was excused, what would you and Sean do?
That's when me and Sean would begin to make love.
Would you clean up the ejaculate in between?
No.
Is what we just walked through a typical single round of a sexual encounter with an entertainer during a hotel night?
Yes.
And I don't think I highlighted it, but how much was the rent on this property?
$10,000.
$10,000 a month?
Yes.
Could you afford that much rent on your own?
No.
And how did you end up deciding to move into a home that had rent of $10,000 a month?
I remember Sean and I had a break. We had a fight, and when we got back together, Sean said, "Let's do a love contract." And it wasn't like a physical contract. It was just a verbal, flirty thing that we were talking about. And he said that when he asked me how much allowance do I want a month moving forward, and I said 15, and then he said 10.
When you said 15 and he said 10, did you mean 1,000?
Yes.
What did Sean say next?
Said, okay, 10.
So how did that $10,000 end up getting given to you?
So from that number, I, at that time, just really wanted a bigger space, a bigger yard, just a beautiful home. I just wanted to experience something that was nice, just so I could feel some sort of balance in our relationship. And I used that whole allowance for just a comfortable living space.
And so did Sean agree that instead of giving you $10,000, say, in a wire or cash, he would instead pay the rent.
Yes.